The Force will be with you.
On the menu today, I'm so excited to see if we can turn this into the most iconic arcade machine ever made.
Red 5 standing by.
No, it's pronounced at, not cat. Oh, hello Chip Dippers. Welcome to Retro Recipes. Now, as you may know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as well as being a retro computing fan. And there's really nothing that combines those two things as much as the Atari Star Wars Cockpit arcade machine. Now, I must have sunk so many of my parents' 10p pieces into those back in the early 80s. Every time we would visit a seaside town or anywhere with an arcade, I would go straight to the Star Wars Cockpit arcade and just really imagine that I was Luke Skywalker flying my X-Wing.
Red 5 standing by.
The Force will be with you.
Look at the size of that thing.
Although I keep looking on eBay and have been looking for maybe 15 years, they're about $8,000 to $10,000 to buy. And then of course you've got the maintenance issues as well. However, Arcade 1-Up, as you know, came out with the stand-up version. And I was wondering, could it be possible to take that and use it as the front of a self-built cockpit version? Now, they have announced a sit-down version of the arcade, but I think to me it kind of misses the point, which is that the cockpit has no cockpit. There's no roof. Doesn't really make sense, does it? It's nice to have, but I think we can do a little better. Oh, and as I film this, we've just had May the 4th be with you, and of course Revenge of the 5th and Revenge of the 6th, not to mention the anniversary of the release of The Empire Strikes Back, the best movie ever made. That's why she's been thinking about cats.
We have spotted Imperial walkers.
Let's see if we can build a Star Wars Cockpit arcade machine for about $400. Welcome to Retro Recipes, and may the Force be with us. So to start our build, we're going to have to order the 1-Up arcade first. What do you think about that? Okay. Price is okay? All right. Add to cart. Transaction complete. Come on, let's go. That was quick.
What did you buy?
Nothing. Thank you. Well, we'll unbox that and start building in just a few seconds. But first, to whet our appetites, I bet you didn't know the fascinating little story behind the making of the ultimate arcade machine. Picture it, 1983, the Brinks Mat robbery, Maggie Thatcher becomes PM, Motorola launches the thing you're probably watching this on, and Mario Brothers and Fraggle Rock debut. But at the same time, Jed Margolin, who joined Atari with the dream of creating a 3D space game and had previously proven himself with Battlezone, there is Battlezone, well, he began engineering a game called Warp Speed, along with Greg Rivera and Mike Halley. In Warp Speed's original proposal, it even discussed how a feeling similar to the end of Star Wars can be achieved. But then, Atari entered into a partnership agreement with Lucasfilm to make Star Wars games, but they didn't have any ideas. And so, Warp Speed became Star Wars. The initial joystick controller shown here was dropped after poor market research, giving us Jerry Learchek's iconic yoke controller that we all know and love today.
The Force will be with you.
And it was to be the first arcade game ever to use digitized speech from a movie.
Red 5 standing by.
Working with Skywalker Sound, they sampled the original actors' performances, really giving the player the feeling that they were in the movie, taking on the evil Galactic Empire. Along with Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, it also sampled a close friend of mine, David Ankrum, who for the movie had dubbed over Dennis Lawson's British accent in the role of Wedge Antilles.
Red 5, I'm going in.
What have you got to say for yourself, David?
Look at the size of that thing, Perry.
And on the inside, overseeing that incredible sound and the vector graphics, was a Motorola 6809 processor. This was a major advance over its predecessor, the 6800, and the related MOS technology 6502, but it was that cockpit that most of us hold dear to our hearts. Designed by Mike Jang. This is a prototype version with temporary graphics that Mike Halley actually drove on the back of his truck up to Skywalker Ranch for George Lucas's approval. I wonder why he didn't just fly it there. Well, anyway, the final step was to approve the actual gameplay, and this time it was memos flying back and forth, and after 18 months, it was finally time for Lucas to give his final approval. That plaque, by the way, on the side of the cabinet reads, "A special thanks for creating the force behind so much fun," and this actual unit was then given to George as a gift.
You're all clear, kid!
He must have been blown away. I mean, imagine seeing your creation come to life in this way. As must Atari, selling 10,245 uprights and 2,450 cockpits to arcades around the world, where we then got to play with them. And so now, from their creation to ours.
I have you now.
Alright, so I'm here in the Retro Recipes test kitchen. We've got the box here, and for this project I've teamed up again with my friend Sean Harrington. So Sean is the guy that helped out with the VIC-2 Squared project, that PAL NTSC switcher for the Commodore 64. And a bit like Jesus, he's also a carpenter, correct?
Sure, okay, yeah.
He'll take that. You can't really get much more retro than Jesus.
Can't get much more retro
Yeah.
than Jesus.
Yeah. So here's my idea for how I want to do this. I want to keep it really simple. The nice thing about this is, of course, it has a riser at the bottom. My idea is if we didn't use the riser, the whole machine is a lot lower, kind of the height of a Atari Cockpit version.
About, yeah.
And if we were to lean the machine forward, tilt it, it would actually bring the screen more towards the correct angle for if you were sitting. It would bring, of course, the X-Wing steering yoke closer to you as well. And then, I don't know how simple this is, but I really just want to slap 2 side panels on the whole assembly, put it back on, and add those decals that you can get on eBay, which are designed for the original Star Wars Atari Cockpit
Right.
arcade. And we can use those as a template, maybe.
I think so. I think if we set those as the starting point, then we don't have to do anything exceptional on the outside. And then I guess the key feature will be how narrow it is. Because, you know, we don't want to make it too narrow for an adult. We'd like an adult to be able to sit in it. So we'll have to see how wide that is.
Yeah.
And that'll let us know how much, if any, extra we have to put on the sides. But
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's a Star Wars sandwich. That's really all it is.
Star Wars sandwich. How about that? And so to start building our sandwich, hopefully the best thing since sliced bread, we use these AutoCAD DXF files that are readily available on the internet of the Star Wars Cockpit arcade. And we knew that the decals that we got from Fleabay would fit onto this perfectly. But if we remove the side panel, you can see a problem with my initial idea. This shows the arcade one-up inside the cabinet, and we had a concern that the screen wouldn't be vertical enough for an adult viewer, especially someone like me, I'm 6'3". Also, the kick plate is another issue, especially for a tall person. I'm 6'3", and using the original arcade one-up doesn't allow a lot of leg room there. And we decided to add another 4 inches to each side so that you had a bit of elbow room when destroying the Death Star.
Use the force, Luke.
I'll go with this. It's for you.
This is the back half where most of the innards of the Star Wars arcade one-up piece is going to go.
How are we going to get that into real life?
Right, so what we'll typically do is we'll take a couple of pieces of plywood. We're going to use melamine coated plywood because it'll give you a nice surface. We don't have to worry about painting it. It'll get us finished quicker. And I'll tell you what, rather than actually sandwiching 2 pieces together, tracing this out and using a skill star or jigsaw, let's send it to a friend of mine who has a CNC.
And as you'll see in a moment, we adapted the idea, so rather than using the arcade one-up unit tilted, we'll take its flat-packed pieces and reconfigure them slightly within our build. And to get started, we took our files and plugged them into the CNC machine so that it could automatically begin slicing the bread for our Star Wars sandwich. But then, as we started to unbox the actual Arcade 1-Up machine, I realized that there was a much simpler way to make a cockpit. So this is now our brand new design. I'm just kidding, but we did see this on Facebook and I thought it was hilarious, so well done to whoever created this. Certainly shows there's a demand.
Silica gel makes a wicked pot of tea.
Oh, look at that. And of course, assembly instructions. We'll only be using half of those, right?
Only half.
Sorry.
It's okay. No part wasted at all. We're going to try and use as much of the cross pieces, including the riser. It's sturdy enough to hold the full unit on it. So I think your idea of maybe using part of it as the bench would be a great idea.
We forgot to order the decals, which we're going to stick on the side. Hey Alexa, order Star Wars Cockpit arcade machine decals.
I just added Featherhead Bontic 4 pairs 8 pieces unisex washable dust mop slippers shoes microfiber cleaning house to your Amazon cart.
Perfect.
$8.99.
Is that alright?
To purchase, say, buy it now.
Cancel that.
Buy it now. Well, while we leave Sean to cancel that, if you want to buy a new PCB now, perhaps for a real arcade machine you're refurbishing, I recommend PCB Way! Their great quality PCBs start at just $5, because as we all know, PCB stands for Perifractic Can't Buy It Now. Oh, sorry, Pussyfractic. Ooh, shiny!
Yeah, so this is appears to be the back panels, the exact same piece that we were looking at here.
Death Star.
Look at the size of that thing. Red 5, I'm going in.
And then we realized we could actually incorporate the lighted marquee from the top of the Arcade 1-Up and put it on the back of our arcade, because the original cockpit had an illuminated screen there.
This is the back panel. Ours is going to be lighted.
Kind of like that.
Just like that.
Alright, so we've got the pieces back. Ta-da! Finished. Well, thanks so much for watching, and just kidding. What's the next step?
So the next step is we'll start cutting some cross pieces. These are the side pieces, and again, we're making a Star Wars sandwich. So we'll make some pieces that will be where the screen goes, where the control panel goes, the little bench we're going to do. A couple of cross pieces up here, but we're going to leave it open air.
And these pieces will surround the original parts from the Arcade 1-Up box. This is their screen panel, this is their control panel, and this is their kick plate. And so it's over to the table saw as we start slicing up all of those ingredients. Now, as you saw, pun intended, some of these pieces are cut at an angle, or at least they need to be, so we can take the angle calculated by the software and translate that over to the table saw, cutting at a mitre. In other words, cutting at an angle. While we're at the saw, we can also fashion up these support beams and their feet. And to do that, we can cut out the template. Again, you'll find the link in the description to download yours. Stick it onto the LDF and cut around it. And this band saw goes through our ingredients like butter. You don't even have to use any force.
Use the force, Luke.
Sorry. And then we hyperspace over to the belt sander to finish off those edges.
And then the last piece is we have to do the T-molding. And T-molding is a little piece of plastic that hides these edges. So you use a router, it cuts a little channel in here. And then you run this T-molding all around it, so it's got a nice trim finish, and it'll match the arcade one up.
And if you wanted to do it on a budget, they sell the little clip-on ones in Home Depot or Home Base.
It's got a little adhesive on it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's options there as well.
Or you can just paint the edge.
We'll just paint the edge.
Yeah.
Yahoo! You're all clear, kid!
Traditionally, an arcade machine inside uses these, what do you call these, dowels, to hold everything together, but it's a bit complex because you have to drill these X-size
Not only
holes.
that, yeah, you have to drill these here and you have to line them up.
Yeah.
So they use some jigs that put little spiky things to mark where it's at. It's really complicated.
And that's why we prepared those 2x2 frame pieces earlier. Rather than dowels straight into the chassis, we'll screw the frames onto the chassis instead, and then dowel the support beams to the frames. This should make it much easier to line things up, whilst also giving the chassis something meatier to attach to. And so we can install those, let's unbox the rest of the bits that came with the arcade 1-up. Oh mate, they printed it upside down.
That's for Australia.
Good. Or we just turn it around. So this is the riser of Skywalker. The idea is use this perhaps for our seat.
As many pieces as possible. And again, we designed it so that these half-inch are the same thickness as these.
Yeah. So that is our screen, yes?
Backside, yeah. The entire game is stored in this metal box. That's as big as it needs to be.
How far we've come.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then
Lighted marquee and the
Lighted
speaker. Ooh, ooh.
so sexy. So that's even easier to transfer to the back.
Absolutely.
What is that? 3.5mm. Just get an extension cable on Amazon. Hey Alexa, order 3.5mm marquee extension cable.
To purchase, say, buy it now.
Buy it now.
Do not buy it now.
Cancel. That cable that I just ordered is exactly this extension
really?
cable that I've got running here. Exactly. And then this is the speakers.
That is the speaker box.
So you can wear these as headphones.
You
And that's
could.
what we're going to do, essentially.
Yeah, essentially we're going to put them right here. On the regular item, the speaker box would go right here.
Yeah.
So we're going to twist it 180 degrees and put it behind the person's head.
Luke, trust me.
And then marquee next to that.
And then the marquee will be actually on the back side, lighting up for everybody.
One last piece to unbox.
This is the money shot.
There's money in here?
This is what took so long for Arcade 1-Up. They had to create a faithful representation of this piece.
Oh my giddy aunt. That really is the money shot. I mean, I'm showing you guys, but I really just want to play with it.
Sure.
So cool. Has a lot of travel on it.
Yeah, they said that's one of the best parts, and the digitizer within it goes to all four corners perfectly.
Yeah.
Nice and tight. That's
Nice.
good. Yeah. About right here.
Okay. So if I just lay on the table,
Don't.
I was just gonna. Okay. Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Let's get building.
Welcome.
Red 5, I'm going in.
Wow, this is so exciting. We mentioned earlier that the machine would have an open roof, but I decided to splurge on a little optional extra. This here is a Perspex bending unit, and here's the painstaking end result. It's clearly plastic fantastic. And with the cockpit on our cockpit, there's just a few things left, namely decals. Sean's giving a light spray of Windex here first, which really helps avoid air bubbles, at the expense of being a little messier. And then with the decals taped in place at the tops, you can just peel off the backing and use the tape as a sort of hinge to lay the actual sticky side back down onto the Windex. And if you do find the Windex method a little messy, you could use the age-old dry method, and if you do have any air bubbles, you can release them with a little prick. Then a little squeegeeing later, is that a word? I don't know. And our X-Wing is marked up and ready to launch.
R2 trying to increase the power.
And just before we do blast off, I should probably share that this build isn't just about childhood nostalgia for me.
Let's go.
I feel incredibly lucky to have worked on a few Star Wars movies and games. If you ever played Battle for Naboo, you actually played it as my character from Episode 1, Naboo starfighter pilot Lieutenant Gavin Sykes. His destroying the Nemoidian shields is the canon reason why Anakin Skywalker was able to kill the Nemoidians and start his journey down the path to the dark side and becoming, well, you know who, no spoilers. And there Vader is on the side of the cockpit, which is even funnier to me because I was Anakin and Vader's stand-in on Revenge of the Sith, working closely with Mr. Lucas. So as you can probably imagine, Star Wars video games are very close to my heart, especially if you can actually sit in a starfighter cockpit.
At least that'd be warmer.
Now that was all really cool, but in a way, it made my desire for the Cockpit arcade machine even stronger because although I had a real ship on set, an incredible thing that still hasn't sunk in to this day, obviously I couldn't take it home with me, wouldn't fit in my pocket. And so with a real X-Wing Cockpit arcade, my childhood and part of my career can come full circle and finally come home with me. And that's why I'm inviting you into my home for this build, as we finish up a few final bits and bobs.
I made it.
All that remains is to bring the two halves firmly together, engage our cabinet brackets to lock them in attack position, add some landing pads to our ship, connect our front cables to the rear ones, and it's finally time to strap ourselves in. Wow. Here we go. Probably because of the cockpit, but the sound sounds like surround sound. A mouthful. We've got 3 games to choose from. There's the wireframe Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, thank goodness we're coming out of the asteroid field.
And also Return of the Jedi.
Here goes nothing.
But I'm really only here for one thing, so... Cute. This is it. Okay. Try to contain myself.
The Force will be with you.
First Prod standing by.
Oh boy. Here we go. Oh, this is all coming back to me.
pod until land.
Use the force, Luke.
Makes you a little dizzy, doesn't it? And if you hit all 4 fire buttons, you get the super rapid fire.
Luke, trust me.
I trust you, Obi-Wan. Get some altitude here. You know what's coming up.
Yahoo! You're all clear, kid.
Bullseye. Oh, here we go again. So what about the price tag? Well, here's Atari's original bill of materials. Did we do better than this, or the $9,000 that the cockpits go for online? Well, assuming you already have the 1-up arcade, you can create the no-frills version of the cockpit out of it using our plans for under $500. And if you want to beam these stolen plans to your ship, just check out the link in the description below. I'll put all the information there for you. As for me and my ship, well, I must fly. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and support below. And cheerio! Got a great viewing window here.
And the force will be with you.